This video is going to show you how to add assignments in PowerTeacher Gradebook as well as input scores. So the first thing you need to do is log into PowerTeacher and launch the gradebook. I like to use the quick launch button. I've already launched the gradebook. Make sure you're in the correct year and you have selected the class you want to work with. Another thing that's important when you're adding assignments or even just looking at assignments to put grades in is to pay attention to the reporting term. Right now I'm in Y1, which stands for our school's full year. If I change the reporting term to either just the semester 1 or quarter 2, it will affect the assignments that you actually see. For example, if I click on quarter 2, I have no assignments because there are no assignments in the quarter 2 time span. If I go to quarter 1, those assignments that were up return because their date span are within just quarter 1. If I select semester 1, these are still here because quarter 1 resides within semester 1. But again, if I go for my full year, then I will see all assignments as it goes along. Now when you change those terms, it will also change the final grade displayed. It'll do it for that particular term. So for Y1, this is the student's overall grade. That could change depending on the term because of the assignments that are making up that grade for that specific term. So I've already got 3 assignments here. Let's add another assignment. I'm going to click on the plus symbol right by the assignment list. It'll pop up a new assignment window. I have to do a few things like give it a name. I'll call this Chapter 7 Test. Tab over and it'll have an abbreviation. This is for doing certain reports that abbreviate and things like that. Now category. I am using category weights for my calculation method, so I'm going to select a category. Since this was a test, I'm going to use my test and quiz category. That is part of the gradebook setup for this specific class. See the video on how to set up category weights if you need to. For score type, this is how you actually input the scores. Although I'm using category weights, I'm still going to punch in points. Like if they had a test, it could be 27 out of 30 points. You could also punch in the percentage. So maybe they got a 87% on the test, regardless of how you calculated it with how many points it was. You could just punch in the raw percentage. Also by letter grade. This one's dangerous because it depends on how the school has it set up. If you type in an A, that might actually correspond to like 95%. Or if you type in an A+, that might correspond to 100% or even more. So typing in a letter grade I don't think is the best way. I would either do percentage, or for me as a math teacher, I prefer points. Here's where you actually punch in the total possible points for the assignment. Let's say this Chapter 7 test was worth 80 points. That's how many actual raw points were in the test. Now if there's any opportunity for extra credit, in other words, a kid can get a score higher than 80 points, you actually have to allow PowerSchool to punch in extra points. So if there's potential of 5 extra credit points, I will put it right here. Otherwise, there's no way you could type in a score higher than 80. So right now, I can actually type in a score of up to 85. Now, of course, 80 is a typical 100% score. Category weight, you can use this to change sort of how heavy this assignment is within the category. Right now it's got 80 points, but if I wanted it to behave as if it had more points, even though I don't want to adjust the actual raw points that the assignment had, I could give it a higher weight. I could also suck some of the life out of it by giving it like a decimal weight of like 0.5. This would actually make this assignment behave as if it were only 40 points. The original 80 points are actually cut in half in terms of weight. So it would behave as if it was a 40-point assignment. It's up to you if you want to use that. I'm going to put it back to a normal weight of 1. Here's the date that it was due. This is usually like when the test was or when you collected the assignment. You could change it by clicking on the calendar and then choosing a different date. Okay. Description. Here you can type in some extra details about the assignment and do a description. You can also use the link button to add a hyperlink. But whenever you're done, you need to make sure you click Save. I'm going to click Save. I'm also going to point out that I didn't even mess with this include in final grade checkbox. This is checked, and which means it is actually going to influence the student's final grade, which is good. If you're typing in assignments and you're punching in grades, but you don't want it to affect their grade yet, you could uncheck that. But I'm going to leave it back checked on. There's also a tab here about publishing for this assignment. If I click on it, you'll see that this assignment and actually this category of tests and quizzes that I'm using will publish the assignment immediately, which means as soon as I clicked save and I saw that Chapter 7 test pop up here with all the other assignments, it is now instantly live for the parents and students if they were to log in and see it. And of course I want to publish the score. There are other options you can play with. Check it out if you'd like, but I like to do it immediately. So here I have all the settings for this assignment. If I want, I could just close this window to get it out of the way. Click on that X, and here I have it. This student, let's just punch in a score for them. Let's just say they got 70 out of 80. I typed it in, and now if I arrow or click somewhere else, their grade, their overall grade, will update. Let's give this other student some scores. Let's say for assignment 1, which was worth 20 points, as it lists right here, let's say they got all 20 points. And I'll arrow over. Notice the grade updates, and they actually have 100% now. They actually have 20 out of 20 points, which gave them 100% in their whole grade, even though these other assignments don't even have scores. Let's give them 24 points there as well. They got full credit. Again, notice it's still 100%. Let's just say that they skipped out on this test. They ditched the class. Right now, as a blank score, it's not even hurting their grade. So if you wanted to hurt their grade, there's a couple things you can do. I like to type in a 0 and mark it as 0, and then it instantly influences the grade and hurts the grade. Of course, as you're typing in assignments, to make them actually store these values, you have to go down the bottom right and click Save. Now let's also give a score here for this test. Let's say they did much, they showed up and they did alright on this test and got 90 points. Now, notice the grade updated. I want to show you for this Chapter 7 test. I'm going to go back to the details about it just by clicking up here on that assignment. Now I'm back to the window, and I could even do some adjustments. I just wanted to remind you that it's 80 points, but we had 5 points potential extra credit. Close this. I didn't really make any changes, but let me go in here and show you that I could actually type in 82. Sorry about that. 82 points. And it is good. It gives them some bonus points. Now, let me go back in here and type in 86. Notice it says that the entered score of 86 is higher than the max points of 85. Remember, it was worth 80, but we allowed for 5 extra credit points. So the system is warning me that maybe this was a typo. 86 is not an eligible score for this. So I'd have to go in and maybe make it back to, I'll make it 80. So this student is doing all right. Again, I have to click Save to record those scores. Now, if for some reason you made an assignment, like let me clear out this Chapter 3 test, let me clear out these scores just by clicking into them and hitting delete. I'll click Save. Let's just say I didn't want that assignment. It was, I added it and I decided we're not doing it, or I just made a mistake and don't like it anymore. What I can do is make sure that I highlight it right there, and then I'm going to click on the minus, and that will delete that assignment. Am I sure I want to delete Chapter 3 test? Yep, that's the one. Delete, and it's gone. So there you go. That's how to add and delete assignments, as well as input some scores. There are a few things you might want to check out sometime, and that's called, let me go to it in Preferences, Tools, Preferences. There's something called score codes. I'll make another video for that, but you might want to check that out. That is for adding other things besides like numbers, like point values. Real quick, I'll show you. If you right click, I believe it's right click, you can get a couple other options to flag or mark this score. You can mark it as collected, That just says, hey, it's that'll communicate to the student that hey, it's collected. So if there's no score, they'll be like, oh, did you get my assignment? I don't see a score. It'll at least tell them that it's collected. Let me take that off. If I right-click again, I could mark it as late, exempt, missing. So that earlier when I had that student that didn't have the test score, how it wasn't affecting the grade. Let me mark it as missing. A little M there. Notice it still doesn't affect the grade. So if you want, you can put that 0 in, even though that you have it marked as missing. Let me right-click and see some of the other ones. You can actually put in particular values. I created these other score codes called absent and not applicable. So check out that video on creating score codes. There we go. I'm going to click Save since I made some changes. It's a good habit. And we're done.